But it is 6 o'clock, so we're going to get this meeting going. Please stand, we're going to get this meeting going. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Speaking of the devil. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to move rather quickly because we have a guest waiting for us, Mr. Brandon Johnson. So this is the point in the meeting for comments on matters not already on the agenda. Comments on agenda items will be accepted when that item comes up during the meeting. Interested persons may also submit views in a written form to the clerk or superintendent prior to those meetings, and those comments will be brought to the attention of the board during the meeting. Do we have any correspondence or public participation? Marietta?
I'm not sure whether you guys would like this during public participation when you can't respond or have any dialect, or if you'd like this during communications. What would you prefer?
You could. Is it something
It's
that's
not an action item.
Is it like an informative item, or is it something that you want to elicit a response from the board from? Because I would say if you want us to respond, you should probably do it just in the communication section.
Okay. I feel like you guys could respond to this.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, with that, we'll move into new business 4.01 substitutes. I guess I'll be making this recommendation because Mr. Okremba is at MCEL training, correct?
Some kind of training.
Some kind.
One is NSEL during NEA days, and then he has something else
Something
today and
else.
tomorrow.
Superintendent.
Remember exactly,
Yeah.
superintendent training,
Yes.
something.
So,
Admin, math, or something. Not math, math, something.
yeah.
Something.
Making the recommendation for Terry Berry, Stephanie West, and Christian Goff as for hire for district substitutes for the 24-25 school year.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves the following district substitutes for the 24-25 school year: Terry Berry, Stephanie West, and Kristen Goff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public on this? Go ahead, Marietta.
Yeah, just a question. Is it possible that we could go back to listing where the subs will work? We do have a long sub list, but not everyone works in the classroom.
We didn't want to be specific. We took that away and just did district subs, because that way if someone changes their mind, or we can like maybe talk them into doing more than just like lunchroom or something. We didn't want to do specific at the board meeting because then they're stuck in that spot.
Okay.
We would have to come back for reapproval.
I am keeping track of how often teachers have to cover, or at least in my building, because that's happened 5 times already.
Okay.
Due to a lack of subs.
And that's something we'll have to talk about. High school teachers got to cover a lot.
Okay. Any further board discussion? Wade?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
I'll abstain. Thank you. 4.02. I'll be making this recommendation as well. For William Hudson, for CPS network technician, for class 24-25 school year as presented.
I move the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approves William Hudson as CPS network technician for the 24-25 school year.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any for the board? Wade?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Perfect. Mr. Dussault?
I would like to recommend Christy Morlock for Colstrip High School yearbook sponsor. Okay. Nicole Kirsten for Colstrip High School play director. Michelle Peterson for Frank Bratton Middle School Multicultural Club, spelling and geography bee and student council, and Georgie Bear for Pine Butte Elementary Student Council sponsor.
I move that the Colstrip Public Schools Board of Trustees approve for 24-25 school year as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any further board? Wade?
Aye.
Tiff?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Sabrina?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect, thank you very much. With that, we'll move into our work session. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Brandon Johansson. Are you on, Brandon? Can you hear me?
I am, yes. And I can hear you, yes.
Floor is yours, sir.
Great. Your audio keeps kind of cutting in and out for me, so I will keep talking. And if I if I'm not hearing you, just wave and I'll try to stop and see what's going on. But you guys invited me here today. I think you're looking at trying to get the sports complex project kind of up and running now that Scott is on board as superintendent. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I feel like it was about a year or so ago when Monty kind of invited me to the board meeting a while back. Both Jen and I both came up to Colstrip and sat in on the board meeting, just kind of gave a quick introduction about our firm and what we are doing here in Eastern Montana and the services we provide. We did do a tour of the sports complex as is, kind of took some photos and just some visual inventory of existing conditions. And I can imagine that over the last year, those haven't gotten any better. Maybe they have been spruced up a little bit, but they weren't in horrible shape. But I understand your desire and need to want to look forward and try to do something different in the future. From my perspective, there's various ways to kind of kick this thing off. But you guys are a public entity, and there are procurement processes that you guys should be made aware of. There are certain thresholds of design fees that you guys can hire direct, but the scope of a sports complex project, even those preliminary stages, can be fairly costly. So I would kind of encourage you to take it under legal counsel, to talk to whoever does legal counsel for the school, to ask them if they feel like you guys could engage in some preliminary design, which is taking some initial inventory, coming up with some ideas and some preliminary cost estimates for you to decide is this something the school and the district is willing to proceed beyond that point, right? There is some counsel that says if you're going to start a project, you should probably go out for a request for qualifications, and that's totally fine by me. If that's the route you guys want to go, we would certainly provide you some feedback on a template for that RFQ, request for qualifications, if need be. And in any format, we definitely put our name in the hat for consideration when the time came. But in any format, a sports complex will likely require a request for qualifications at some point along the line. But there are some benefits of doing some preliminary work and some preliminary estimates before you kind of head in that direction. But that's really up to your council to advise whether they feel they're comfortable with that approach or not. We would be happy to engage in any of those options with and for you.
So would there be upfront costs for the template for the RFQ?
No. What I would do is I just send you examples of recent RFQs from, typically I get them from cities and counties, have seen some from schools, but essentially they just kind of give you the verbiage that works for Montana code. And you guys, swap out your name and insert your requirements and expectations for this endeavor. And then you publish it just like you do any notice to the paper or whatever else it is that you guys do for noticing. And I would just ask that if you do that, whenever that's live and, launched, I would love to get a copy of it, because I may not read the Forsyth Independent or have access to it. So I may miss it unless you guys send it to me direct. But that is if people are concerned about an approach, that's one way to eliminate all concern, is just to do that RFQ up front, make your selection, work with that design team moving forward. And in that instance, we would certainly provide our qualifications for consideration.
Okay. Really, I think that's the way to go. I mean, just start, get the estimate, after we get the RFQ, get somebody on board to do that initial design, and then get that estimate. That engineer's estimate's gonna tell us whether or not we can afford this project, and whether or not, different entities, we can go out and say, we've got this project ready to go. Would you be willing to support and help financially?
So if we use a company for the design work, can they also bid on the actual job then?
They should be able to, yeah.
Okay.
If they've got both sets of skills, yeah.
So like, for instance, that's the eye.
And we would not bid the construction work of it. We would help administer construction through our role as the architect and design lead. There are firms that do design build where they have construction in-house. I would caveat against that. That might sound enticing, but at the same time, who's looking out for the client in that instance? When they're controlling the design and they're controlling the construction component of it. I'm always a big promoter of assuring that the design team is independent to represent both entities, because that's what we do during construction is we become third-party administrator, right? We're making sure that the contractor's held accountable to the clients, while the client is also held accountable to the contractor, whether they're making their payments and they're, not asking them to do a bunch of free work type of thing. So we kind of become that in-between person during the construction of it. But that's typical for most public projects, is the design team is independent from the contractor. The design build component is a very unique setup. The design bid build is the tradition, right? The client hires the design team, they design, they go out to bids, you get competitive bids, you award those bids, and then it goes into the build phase. There are alternative delivery methods that require justifications. If you've heard of, construction management approaches, that's where you can get so far into design, like let's say 25 to 50% of construction documents are done. We can pause, do the alternative delivery method if your council is willing to make those justifications for the project on your behalf, to then hire a contractor at that point where they come join us during the design phase for that last 50% to provide us more real-time feedback on cost estimates, schedules, et cetera, to better control schedules and costs essentially at that point. We see a lot of public entities wanting to do that, but there's a caveat there that it has to be justified, because Montana Codes Annotated provides 3 criteria, and you have to meet 2 of those 3 criteria for you to basically qualify for that approach. So that is not up to me. I can only explain to you what those options look like. You have to take that to council, and council will then let you know if they feel you're justified or not.
Which MCA are you referring to?
It's this basic Montana Codes Annotated. If you want me to give you I got the quick links here. Let me just give me a second. It's got a keyword search, some stuff I don't have the. All right, it's at 18-2-502, and within there will be some other references that kind of take you outside of that link, but that's your base link to kind of read about that. That's alternative delivery. We do see a lot of clients ask for that, but once they take it to legal counsel, counsel says, no, you're not justified through, this is an option to explore, but they may say you're not justified or not. We are geared up to approach both the traditional design bid build method, which is where we design it, we put it out to bid, award to the lowest competitive or lowest responsible bidder, and then administer construction during the build, is kind of our bread and butter out here in Eastern Montana, because we're usually dealing with tight budgets and we're trying to get the most competitive bang for our buck out of those budgets. With that alternative delivery, you typically spend a little bit more on it or get less for it because you're paying a construction firm for additional services and oversight, essentially. But a lot of people see value in that. We're well versed in both options.
So,
Sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
Whose field did you guys just recently do in Eastern Montana?
What was that?
Whose field did you do in Eastern Montana?
You say build?
Field.
Field, like who's sports complex?
Yeah.
Our most recent full-blown sports complex was Baker High School. I think you're playing them tonight because I actually was in Colstrip this afternoon checking out the pickleball courts that we're doing for CPRD, and stopped in to try to visit, say hi to Scott, just to introduce ourselves, but missed him. He's on the road. I see he's joined us here remotely. But on our way back to Miles City, we passed the Spartans bus. But we did their sports complex back in, it's been 10 plus years or so ago. We have done press boxes. We've done lots of stuff for Miles City here at Custer County. Sydney High School, we just recently did their track. They did a post-tension track recently that we designed and administered the construction for. That's kind of where we met Monty, actually, was when he was kind of interim superintendent over there as well. And they were trying to do the field, but decided they weren't going to pursue the turf field at that time. But we kind of did accommodate that as a future option. And I just got a call today, actually. It sounds like another school up in the Northeast, a smaller school, is looking to redo their track up there as well. So here in Eastern Montana, we can't be specialists, right? But we have done quite a few of these types of projects. But if we did nothing but sports complexes, we'd be out of business in no time.
Yeah.
Our wheelhouse is making sure we understand the construction climate in Eastern Montana to make sure that we're being accurate with our budgets and estimates and setting you up for success. We have a whole plethora of consultants that we can engage to help us on the specific things when it comes to the civil design, the electrical design, et cetera, et cetera. We take pride in leading the design team and assuring that the Eastern Montana construction climate is considered in those types of discussions.
What's a typical design timeline for a project like this?
The sports complex, from RFQ to end of design, I could, if budgets were there, I could see that being a full year, to be honest. And construction of that is really going to be contingent on your ability and flexibility with your current facilities. The project in Baker, I'm trying to remember, that wasn't that long ago, but it actually, mentally, it was a long time ago. We've been through a lot since then. But I feel like that they were down a season, right? It's not like they did this project over the summer when school was out. I think they had to really game plan the construction of that. And it took but that was a clean slate. I mean, they scorched earth, bulldozed everything, and built it all back up in the same spot. They did have the practice field to kind of practice whatever, but I can't remember. I think they had to travel for games. We have to touch base with them to find out if the folks that were around are still around. But I think design within a year is good, but it's really contingent on budget. Sometimes if it requires a bond or if it some type of levy or some type of public input with voting or whatever else, that extends that timeline because then got to hit the election cycles. We've dabbled into those as well and assisted. That's where design and estimates really come in handy is for those types of efforts. Get some 3D visuals that help sell the project on your behalf. All that kind of stuff is part of the design process, and all those things cost money, right? They cost our design team money to develop. They cost time and expense. But the RFQ preliminary stuff won't take a year, right? That can be a few months, depending on how engaged we can get and how quick we can onboard that project into our workflows. And honestly, these types of projects usually have a quick front end and then a pause, right? It takes you guys some time to really mull over the options and make those hard decisions as to how to pursue or if to pursue. And we are in a constant flux of projects that are in those various stages, right? They're sitting on the shelf in those preliminary stages waiting for clients to determine budgets, raise funds, or allocate funds depending on who the client is. So that's pretty straightforward on my end. Typical stuff.
Okay.
Any of you guys have questions for him?
So,
I do have a question, sorry. Head coach for track. This is just an estimate of an RFQ, correct? So in the very beginning phase of having the whole facility be done? So in that process, would he be breaking into phases or would he be trying to do everything at once?
Well, that's something we have to decide,
Yeah.
right? We would have to get the RFQs out, right? Get these people down here. They would have to look at all that and they're gonna have to tell us, okay, this is what the track and field is gonna cost.
So I'm sorry, Steve, but he's going to break it down into the different
I think we can ask them to do that, right?
bathrooms, what the field, what the
Mhm.
scoreboard, if that's, okay.
Right, or like he said, Colstrip, they tear it all down and we redo the whole thing.
That's going to be your most cost effective way, honestly. But every time you phase it, you're asking the contractor to mobilize, demobilize, you're bringing back trades multiple times. But that's how things get done in Eastern Montana all the time because we don't have just gluttonous budgets to do whatever the hell we want all the time. So the phase approach is great. But typically with these early design things, we work on that hourly plus expense essentially, where we just say, hey, we're kind of at your leisure. You guys want us to focus on the track. You want us to look at the football field. You want to look at the grandstands. You want to look at the tennis courts over here. We can do all that at your whim once we get under contract through the RFQ project. And the cleanest, fairest way to do that is hourly. And we can certainly present some not to exceed amounts, but that doesn't mean we just do everything you want within that not to exceed amount. We just say, hey, once we get close to that not to exceed amount, you'll know. And that's what we've accomplished during that time frame. And we can limit it because there are some concerns sometimes that people don't want to just have an open-ended cost plus expense front-end design. And I totally get that. So I usually pose that as a not to exceed, and we use that in an increment that you are comfortable with. And then we do the work. And once we get close to that increment, you know where we're at. We don't really keep moving until we renegotiate and extend as needed. But that front end is really hard to really say this is how much it'll cost because any design firm will tell you that if you pin a person down, they're just going to inflate that cost at the front end just to make sure they're covered, and they'll do whatever you want and assure that they've already covered that. So I think the hourly plus expense with the not to exceed amount to review and renegotiate on an incremental basis is the fairest for all involved. That means we're not overinflating our initial bits, but we're also getting paid for the services we're providing.
So step one for us is really to get that RFQ out.
Yeah, right.
I think so. It's the safest, right? You don't have to take any risk of potentially someone calling foul for breaking up the preliminary design phase outside of the overall thing. And I have some clients that have no qualms doing that, but it's not a decision for me. That's why I want to be upfront about it. Is like the RFQ for that specific project is great. Another thing you can do is on what they call on-call services, or you can do it for a term, right? The Colstrip school district can say, we are looking for an architect for the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. And then that architect will be our architect for that duration of time. And then you can throw anything at that architect for the duration of that. You got a vestibule that needs to be revised. You got some bathrooms that need to be updated. We can just go into that because you've done an RFQ, you've selected us, and it's based on a term, not a project specific thing. We have a lot of those types of contracts with counties and cities and even schools. We're doing that with Fairview Schools right now, where we're working on a capital improvements plan for them. We're doing a bus barn addition for them. We're looking at a CTE project for them, a lighting upgrade project for them. Anything that they're wanting to explore on this front ends, we just do that as that hourly portion, and then they decide whether it's a project or not that they're willing to tackle this fiscal year or next fiscal year, and then they at least get that preliminary content. They don't have to go out on an RFQ for every little project. So that's another option. I can send you some examples of the project-specific RFQ. I can send you an example of the kind of term-based RFQ, and please know we'll put our name in the hat for whatever you want.
All right. I have no more questions for Brandon. Does anybody else have any questions for Brandon? No?
I mean, I'm just, and I'm trying to wrap my head around what it is we're talking about, because I don't know what an RFQ is. I know it's 3 letters, and Q probably stands for quote.
It's basically a request for they're professional documents to show that they know what they're doing, and they've done projects like this, and then also like their resumes and everything else like that. So
Request for qualifications is what it stands for.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes that'll get confused with RFPs, which are requests for proposals, but we're not proposing any costs or anything along those lines. It's just getting hired based on merit, essentially, is what the design world looks like at the front end.
Because I just know that right now we've got a track that's not usable, we've got bathrooms that aren't usable, we've got stands that are unsafe, and we've got a concession stand that is questionable, and I'm sure Brenda can talk a lot more on that and is more than willing to. But, you know, how do we prioritize that, and when do we actually start to fix this stuff?
So I
That's,
think that's what we do right now, right? We send that RFQ out. Okay, we get that out, get all the qualifications back, and we, as we're deciding on that, that's why we wanted you coaches here tonight to talk about what is our priorities first. Is it the whole complex, or is it getting the track and the track rates? We can hold track meets here for the middle school and the high school. Getting, you know, if we're doing the track, you might as well do the field, right? So is that priority 1? Is it getting it to where we can use them, or is it option 2, which is track and field stadium, right?
right.
That's
Start from scratch.
So,
Right.
yeah, so I guess that's, and from where I'm looking at it, and I think from where a lot of us are looking at it is, like, are we looking at like okay, this is what we can do to get by for now. This is like a middle ground where we can do, you know, the track, the field, the concession stand, and get some plumbing in the stands, or like I said, do we, you know, blow the whole thing up and start over from scratch? And I guess price is going to be what determines which of those 3 things we do, and how, you know, and again, the condition of the bare bones of the, you know, the structures. Like, can we fix the stands? You know, can we fix the concession stand? Like, or would it be better for us to, you know, just completely gut those things out and start over from scratch? You know, it's nice to host things, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of embarrassing to have people go to porta johns. You know, so where do we, like, and I guess that's a discussion we're all gonna have.
That's
But,
correct.
yeah, and to see what that costs us. Because-
So
and that's what he was saying. Like, I mean, that front end will be really fast, where we get designed, we get, you know, alternatives, whatever, and then we come in, we sit, we you know, look at the numbers and say, we can't afford that, or we can afford that, or what funding is available for which project, and then schedule. What, I mean, is this going to take, you know, a year to do all of this, and what are we going to do with the kids during that year? So the initial part of it, it's really getting qualifications in from them and from other firms, and then choosing, and then them start on those preliminary designs. So,
like I said, that's why we invited you out here tonight. It was after Brandon spoke on what he had to, was really what are our priorities, right? Is it the track and field? Is it the whole thing? You know, what at least gets us hosting.
Yeah.
Right? Like I said, those are some of the discussions that we need to have, is what are our priorities, so.
I would also offer that the design process is interactive, right? We we'll have kickoff meetings with all vested parties, and that we don't just have one meeting and then come back to Miles City and design the thing and say, here you go, this is what you asked for, right? It's a constant evolution of feedback that I think is really important. And that's not just the school board, if it's the coaches, it's whoever you want that to be. All stakeholders should be offered a position at that table for those initial meetings, and that's where we get the best end result, to be honest. Everybody has to be on the same page with what this is going to be if you want it to be a success.
Exactly. We have to get the community involved in this as much as you guys, right? Because this is going to take, even if we can go out there and get fundings from private entities, right? It's still going to be, I don't want to use the word huge, but it's going to be a sizable investment on community as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And we
we're talking
have to-
probably 7 figures in 7 figures, yeah.
Yeah. So.
So I know that we're using porta potties right now, and people are not happy with that, but, and it seems to be working, but, so even like Friday night, I don't know who, but somebody unlocked the bathroom door, the men's bathroom door, and people were using it, and so pretty soon we had water flooding all over the place because somebody left the door open. I mean, it's just,
Like I
you
said,
know, and so then I have the choice of, do I pull the officer, do I pull the coach off the field to go turn the water off? And it's just, it's a lot, it's embarrassing, people complain, and
I've kind of had this idea in my head about what we can do, how we can do it. I don't see that actually working as well as I thought, I really had that stage kind of mentality in mind. We're going to go after this first, right? And then we're going to go after this. And then, but I just.
Well,
I think-
I think there's opportunities, actually. I mean, looking at the different things. I mean, the porta potties, I know there are companies out there, even in Sheridan, that offer a trailered, air conditioned heated solution to that. And then you have, I mean, the concession stand, even if we were to tear that down and bring in a modular type unit to be able to house that, either permanently or just in the interim. So it's like, there are some solutions to some of this, but I mean, the bigger project is what the kids are actually competing on.
Right.
But we don't have the option to go to the middle school like we did with the gym.
Yeah.
Because their
Right.
facilities are not better by any means, so.
And it'd be nice if we could actually throw something in that direction to give them, an adequate practice and stuff. Get that field improved to the point where if they want to have a game there, they could have a game there, and so that's something else to look at.
Right.
So my question would be, how quickly could you get an RFQ and like start the ball rolling?
We can start that tomorrow.
We have to post it for so many days, I think is the rule. And then we have to receive the responses, and then we have to meet to choose one of those.
And is there a requirement like how many architect firms have to respond, or just one can respond and you can go from there?
If one just responds, we've done our due diligence. I think, what is it, Brandon? 14 days?
I think it's 14.
It's we recommend 3 consecutive publishings, so that gives you 15 days essentially, but that covers your 2 weeks, and so that's the state mandated timeline for notice, and sometimes we like a little more grace, so we have time to put together those responses, but this one's fairly turnkey for us, I know, and we'll have it on our radar, and we'll start putting together our package, so it'll be good for us, but it's in your best interest to see who else is out there and might be interested as well.
And if it involves levies and full board and all those things, that's a lot more time.
Right, but that comes after the RFQ, even after the design phase of this, the initial design.
All those things will want to see some level of due diligence. Coal board, if you're going to ask them for funding, they're going to want to see some type of design and some budgets. The levies, 100%, you're going to want to have, if you're doing a bond or, trying to ask the public to vote for something, you're going to want to show them what it's going to look like and show that you've really put some time and effort into figuring that out. Something else to consider is SEMDC is right there in your backyard. And I think they might have access to, we do what they call PARs, preliminary architecture reports. We do that through Department of Commerce, and those efforts usually cost around 30 grand. And they're not heavy on design, but they're heavy on due diligence of making sure this is the right thing to do. And then from that, a lot of times, I don't know if schools and like sports complex will meet the need, but if they are a public facility, and Department of Commerce has public facility grants in the amount of $750,000 that Julie and crew at SEMDC have taken our PARs and rolled those into $750,000, grants, within months at times. But it really is contingent on what else is out there for applications and whatnot. But those are things to be considered, and that's why it might be in your best interest to be somewhat vague and broad, I should say, general in your request for qualifications. Like, we want to hire design firms to explore the Colstrip, sports complex, or do the term. The term covers all that. If you do term limits, a 3-year term, 5-year term, whatever, then you can do whatever you want, a PAR, preliminary design on anything. But if you're going to be specific, maybe make it general enough so that a PAR could be incorporated if you see benefit. But that might be a conversation you guys might want to have with your hometown heroes and SEMDC to make sure that they see value in that type of pursuit for this type of project.
I like the term option.
It leaves it open.
I do too. For sure.
So if he can send us those examples.
Yeah.
And we can get it going fast.
Could you send us those examples, Brandon?
I'm sending an email to self right now, so I have that in my inbox tomorrow.
You just want to get it to Scott and myself, Steve Becker, and I'll make sure that it gets out from there as well.
Sure, I'll send it to both of you guys.
Okay. Any other questions for Brandon? Coaches, thoughts, concerns, administrators?
Would we be on the design team for potential?
It'll be open. It'll be open.
Yeah, we want you guys involved, I think, as much as possible, because your guys, you have
It's
more,
your facility.
Yeah,
It's what,
you know more about the facility than anyone else.
Just advertise it as something about porta potties and
Just say that you're not having a whole meet for cross country or for track.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a whole discussion with
Yeah.
the community.
Yeah,
But it's gonna take that too, right?
Mhm.
Because this is, like I said, this isn't gonna be easy. This isn't gonna be cheap. And if this is where we wanna go, I like that preliminary assessment,
mhm.
to see what the buy-in is.
Is he still on the phone?
Brandon, are you still on the phone?
Yep, I'm here.
What did the Baker facility cost 10 years ago? Just to give us a kind of an idea of what we're looking at, if we go that route.
I think it's 10 million, I think.
Did you hear the question?
I did. I will follow up with that information. I want to be accurate with it. I have it readily available. I'm not at the office. I'm at home right now, and so when I'm back there, I'll just look it up and let you know. I can pull contracts and tell you exactly what it ended at the very end. I want to say it's take whatever that cost is and probably double it for today's dollar for sure. But it is a good marker, and I can tell you what in our RFQ, we'll probably list all those types of projects and those types of scopes and timelines, so put it within the context of when it was built, just to see what those types of things cost. But I have forgotten by now. And it wasn't that long ago. It's just there's so many of these, every project's special, but that type of information fleets you. And I was not prepared to answer that tonight. I'm sorry.
So 2 years ago, when we
4.1 million. I've got it in your Baker High School Sports Complex.
Great.
4.1 million.
Okay.
4.1.
So something similar in today's dollar would likely be around the 7-8 mark. And that was the scorched earth one and done, got it, you know, they also had stadium lighting, they had a pretty substantial reader board for display, actually had video graphics, not just, you know, score, and, you know, it was actually a video screen from Daktronics, and they did some nice things at that facility for sure. But it's not getting any cheaper these days.
The Sydney High School track was 1.42 million.
And that was the post-tension concrete, which you guys are getting at your pickleball courts there at CPRD right now, plus the rubber surfacing.
No.
No.
Just the Sydney and Baker.
Okay.
A lot of track meet that we sent invites to before Tom, only 2 teams agreed to come here, and only because they didn't have a lot of other options, and most of the other teams needed safety.
Right.
We used to have about 1,000 kids
Mm-hmm.
for middle school.
Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
huge.
In the last 2 years when we actually had meets, we had about 120.
Yeah.
I've been to that one in Mount City with Wyoming and North Dakota, and the one in Laurel or Lockwood. A lot of kids there.
Yeah, it used to be one of the big ones.
Mm-hmm. So we'll get that information from Brandon, and then I'll get Scott and Brittany and Chris on getting that RFQ out. That'll, like I said, that can happen this week.
Mhm.
And I think we do that 3 listings,
Yeah.
cover all of our bases.
So then our next work session, we could
Potentially, we could decide on an architect,
talk about it.
right?
Mhm.
Good. And this is where you guys come in, right? You guys sell this as much as we do.
So what's your gut feeling or plan as a board? Do you want to go from ground up?
I think,
If you could.
I mean, I personally-
If we could,
I
absolutely.
personally would love to sit here and say, let's just bulldoze it and start it over. But you have to look at the cost of it, what it's gonna, how much is it going to tax the taxpayers of the district?
Can we solicit any funds?
Can we get any funds? You know, the hard part is, I would love to do it in phases too, but I don't know how I look one coach in the eye and say, well, your sport isn't as important as this sport.
I think if you go that route, I think you attack all the athletic facilities at once. So that you don't have to have that conversation. And then you go to the stands, the bathrooms, the concessions, back there, or vice versa. So that,
I don't think you can fix just the track, because they're connected.
Right.
And they're all rolling hills. I mean, you have to, you know, we have to flatten that out.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be both at once, I think, would be my thinking.
Are you guys introducing doing turf for the track or for the football field?
No.
No, just
Too
doing it grass?
expensive.
It's too expensive, too much upkeep on it.
We'd have to replace it in like 8 years, and there's no way we could afford that. If we're gonna ask a big ask right now.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's horrible.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's a lot of maintenance too for like the coaches and the athletic director doing turf. Because then, like for track, for instance, we went to Laurel a lot. And they were constantly getting after us about no cleats on the bleachers and no sunflower seeds out on the turf. Because it doesn't disintegrate into the ground, it's turf, you know, so there's a lot of stuff that goes into having a turf.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you think, yeah.
But our goal tonight was to get this information from Brandon, to know what that first step is, right? So now we know that, we'll get that ball rolling for sure. And then we'll have that meeting hopefully at our next work session on where we're at, and then
And
then-
come to the next work session with more questions or more, you know, jot things down if you think of it. Hey, what about this? Or here's, you know,
Yeah, we're gonna need community members here. We're gonna need, it'll be a big buy-in. We can't be light about that, right? This is not the vestibules we did to fix the doors on the, the north side of the gym to protect that floor that we got, fortunately, insurance picked that up, right? It was a $500,000 investment that we went out and procured funds to protect that. This is gonna be substantially more than a few vestibules.
So I have some stuff on the concession stand, can I share?
Sure.
I've been doing it for too long. I wrote 15 years down here, but I think that's as long as I've been doing, as the manager part. And I know maybe one of you have been in the concession stand to help with. I have two left, if anybody else wants to look at them here real quick.
I'll need one then.
And I can get more copy. But I just wanted to bring up to the attention, I don't know how many of you have actually been inside that concession stand lately and really taken a good look at it. We served a lot of people out of there. I know you guys say you want the track, you want the field, you want all that first, but there's people coming for concessions. They're coming from out of town. This is their only meal where they're getting to eat. And right now, and I know I left off a lot of stuff, but like right now, the outside lighting, it doesn't work all the time. People are down there trying to put mustard or ketchup on their hot dogs, burgers, and they can't see. It's in the dark. The floor, that flooring really needs to be replaced. That hot water heater sprung a leak about when Connor was a concessions manager, and it flooded that whole floor. And so underneath that linoleum, I know there's mold. There's disgusting stuff under there. That linoleum right now is breaking. There's 2 patches in there now, so we put duct tape over it. Try to keep maintaining it with duct tape, and that's not really sanitary. Again, we're trying to serve people out of here. And so I tried to take some good pictures there. It's pulling away from the walls. And so you just can't even clean it. On the second page here, it shows some of our electrical strips. The one is burnt out. It still kind of works, but I'm afraid one of these days it's going to, and part of this comes from working at the power plant. So you really look at a safety a lot with what you're doing and serving the public and all that. So that's where kind of like, I get my grumbles. We have a section where the wiring is showing. Probably not very conducive to be cooking food and all that back there when you have wiring showing. And then all of the windows, I know it's hard to see there in the pictures, but each one of those roll-up windows has leaked. There was water damage on all of those. And so I talked my husband into coming down and helping me scrape and at least patch over top of there so that you weren't looking at disgusting brown and black stuff as you're trying to serve that to the public. So that has been somewhat patched there. All of those roll-up windows need fixed. Some of them really have a hard time shutting. I don't know, they called me earlier and said the window wouldn't shut. I said, keep trying, slide it back and forth, it'll eventually shut. So I know I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure there's probably mold underneath in that area with that. Our hot water tank, as you can see right there, it's very tiny. When you try to do dishes and clean and sanitize at the end of the night, you have to have hot water. And when you have to wait for an hour for it to refill and heat again, it's just not very conducive. The stripping across all the banisters has fallen off. So you snag on it, you scratch yourself, you do different things with that. And again, those windows, you open them up. If it's a cold night and that wind's coming from the west, it just blows right into that stand. So let's see, some other things that I talked to different people who have helped. Heidi's helped with concessions down there. She's been in there at times. There's no area for storage. We've got it crammed in there as much as we can. I don't know if there's even lighting on the outside. I'm never on the outside when you're trying to serve people, so I couldn't tell you if there was lighting there for the people as they're all standing in line. There's no ventilation. We did have some bug netting up there, but people have torn that down. There's trouble with the main door, really won't shut. The door between the ticket takers, it won't even shut. So there is a lot of work that really needs to be done down there. I would recommend any of you to come in one night and help, and you can see some of the struggles that we do have with that. So, yeah. It needs a lot of work. I complain about it, but I don't know why I still help, but I do, so.
I think we're all on the same page and we all know a lot of it needs a lot of work, and that's why we're here, and that's what we want to start the process. Because we know that concession stand, we know the stadium's crumbling, we know that the track has an uphill part at the 200.
Right.
I mean, we see that.
We've
We've
got a
had,
downhill part.
I mean, we've had refs come in saying they would not ref football games a couple of years ago because the field was so rough. So we know, I mean, and that's why we're here, and we want to make it better.
So, yeah, so that's why I just wanted to share some of this stuff, what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think step one is, let me see if I got that information.
Yeah.
We'll get this RFQ out this week, I think. Probably manage that, can't we?
He said he's gonna email it to himself to remind himself to send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look for it first thing and then I'll get that ball rolling, so. Brandon, thank you.
Thank you all. I'll step out.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you.
so there you go. That's step one, right? We'll get that out this week.
So I guess my comment on that too is, I don't know how old the facilities are. I mean, were they built in the 70s? Is that when everything was, or 80s? Does anyone know?
80s.
And I guess like for me, and we're gonna go out and look at building a new facility or going from scratch or doing it in phases. The other part of that nobody's talking about is maintenance, right? So like negligence is why we're where we are with our facilities as it is. So even if we go out and tell the community, we're gonna, like, we want you to put money in and invest into this, but then we also have to have like a better maintenance plan to make sure that we keep this nice facility that we spent $5 million on, $7 million on. Nice, right? So like her talking about food, I work in food, and like that sounds like a nightmare to me.
Don't come in.
I don't even want to see it because it would give me the heebie-jeebies, but the second you get somebody food poisoning or sick at, or anything, working in there even, like that's a lawsuit in itself, and that's negligence on the maintenance.
And like, this isn't coming from necessarily the board, right? We're not the ones saying, hey, we have to do this. This is public comment coming our direction, right?
Yeah.
So now this is us saying, okay, there's enough interest in there. I think you guys have seen some of the back on track signs that they're putting in yards, you know. So there is some buy-in. But what I would like to do, what this board, I think, would like to do is just to show everybody what this is gonna take.
And yeah, and have a plan.
And have a plan. So, yeah, I agree. That if we're doing one thing, we need to do them all. That includes succession stand. Maintenance on it when it's done, yeah, that's gonna have to be stepped up for sure, right? But it's like everything else. You know, we struggle to get certified teachers. We struggle to get bus drivers, which we're gonna get into next. We struggle to hire maintenance.
Or you can get contractors.
Or I cannot get one person to come down here and look at a piece of concrete for Alicia. One, I can't get one contractor. I don't know how many we've gone through. Won't even give us a bid. So this is, like I said, getting this RFQ out. Apparently this project's gonna be big enough that we'll probably get some contractors that are willing to do something with this. And I might have to tie that.
Add that in.
Add that
There'll be
in.
a line item.
Because it's, like I said, it's ridiculous to get anything done. So, I mean, we've been very fortunate with CEI on a lot of electrical things, because, you know, they went to school here. Brent and CEI have been wonderful with helping us out, Brady Colburn and everybody. But there's not a lot of interest in coming to Colstrip to fix small things, but I think this is gonna generate some hype. But again, this is also going to take a lot. So,
I would just like to, go off of what Lynn said there about the maintenance. I think that's one of the big things that we really need help with. And the concession stand, I will tell you, it is clean. Top to bottom, it is hygienic to feed people out of there. We make sure all the equipment is clean and all that, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of pre-prep work and, after prep work that, we'll talk about numbers after the end of this season, on that, but, just trying to get anything done. I mean, I am not a maintenance person at all, and I have done more maintenance in there than
oh
probably.
yeah, like I said, Brenda, you don't have to sell us. We get it.
But I can speak to track. We had, the school just purchased brand new pole vault and high jump mats last year, and our back door was open all winter. And we had rabbits and mice and all kinds of stuff living in there, and they're brand new pole vault mats. I mean, that's a lot of money that we're just, that's neglecting. Like, why was that door left open all winter, So that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, well, it's good that we're talking about getting new facilities. Obviously, as track coaches and football coaches, we want to have a nice track so that we can host this year. But it's also like, okay, then what's the backup plan also on making sure the maintenance happens and changes for the better.
Right. So, all good. So we can go out and get these RFQs, we can get these architectural designs, we can do all this. This part we can do, right? We'll certainly solicit monies outside of our tax base. But like I said, this is where it really comes down to you guys, right? We'll get this ball rolling. We'll see some numbers that I'm sure are gonna scare us to death, but,
Well, and those funding sources are always more amenable to giving money if the community has their, gives their portion as well. So it's always, I mean, we're willing to put this up front. Are you willing to come in on that back end and help us out? So.
I'm sorry I missed most of the conversation, but there are some old reports and drawings and plans from when we looked at fixing things probably 6-7 years ago. I'd even been longer than that. So I'm sure that the numbers will be much different. There are some things out there, and one of the plans was to approach some of the area corporations, businesses.
oh, absolutely.
To come in and put their signs up. I mean, Bozeman brings in millions of dollars doing that, so.
I'll put Nansel Stadium track if you want.
Buy me a letter.
That's what the board's willing to do, right?
I won the lottery, that was the first thing.
I where we get the money, I don't care. Okay?
Kind of.
What kind of? I'm not completely willing to sell my soul, but, I'm close.
If you see Steve on the corner.
So, but that's what we can do right now. We can get this rolling and we can get all this front end stuff. And then, like I said, then that's when the real work starts, right?
Oh, and I would like to hear do you have anything to add?
Oh, I just
Being
kind of
the-
want to know what we're gonna do in the meantime. I mean, how long is this gonna take? 2 years to get funding and?
Probably a solid year.
Because, where that wheelchair ramp comes and where the band is, that's all cracked out and just crumbling. I don't know if we could look at, maybe in the summer, if we could look at just get some of that stuff fixed. And that's something that we need to look at. Like, I know you guys were talking about that. Just seeing what we can fix now, or if we're gonna go total rebuild. I agree with you on the turf. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, I agree too. I don't think we're interested in that.
Yeah.
It's an added expense that I think we can do
I know I talked to Robin about having some kids do some painting and stuff, and I mean, just get rid of that crinkled up sticker and talk about maybe getting a steel horse head made. I mean, we can do some stuff just to make it look better. I don't know what's wrong with the bathrooms. Is it just some plumbing that got broke, or?
I know that if you flush the toilets more than like once or twice in a row, it just keeps running and then it just.
Is that the toilet though? I mean, toilets are cheap.
I don't know.
No, it's not the toilet, it's the plumbing, because we live in a town where you have metal pipes in the ground, and you've had, 40 years of mine blast that have gone into that, and those pipes have probably broken apart down there, and it's just leaching into the ground. Like, that's, I mean, even if you're somewhere that you just have to deal with cold and heat, it's gonna be bad, but add into that, that we have an earthquake every other week.
And I don't like where the bleachers are and stuff, we might have to just go in there and pull them up. I think you could cut some of that concrete out. I mean, you'd have to talk to somebody, but I think there are some things that we could do to make it last.
But I think that's,
But we need a plan.
yeah, right, I think that's what what this is coming up and saying, is it cost effective to do that?
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things is, one of the big first steps would be to looking at getting, like you said, the mobile, like a mobile kitchen and some mobile bathrooms instead of the porta johns, Because the ones that have running water and air conditioning and stuff, it's nice to be able to wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, especially if you're gonna go buy a cheeseburger from the concession stand.
Yeah, we don't want that.
It's nice, other people can wash their hands.
We don't want that to be a long-term fix.
No,
Right. You
no,
need a
but-
plan in place.
But if it is gonna take 2 or 3 years, to get all that stuff done, like having that stuff so that we can at least, meet.
So once we get this in, then they'll break that down, and then that's what we can
Yeah.
decide, right? Well, they'll say this, like, it costs this much to fix this, and we can say, okay, do we want to do that first? Or do we want to just mow it down? And I think that's where you guys in the community will come in.
And then I don't really understand the $30,000 to pay somebody to tell us that we need to do this when we already know.
There are
The
fees,
design
it's
fees.
designed,
Yeah.
you are getting, it doesn't matter what you ask for. All right, there's gonna be some kind of a fee, just to have them come in and look at it is a fee.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that the contractor fee?
Architect.
Say paying a plumber $150 to pull up in your driveway.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have talked for a couple of years about needing to have a plumber come in. I mean, like, I could keep a plumber busy in this building for probably 2 months.
Yeah, right.
There's so many things. And it seems like when the concrete started crumbling so badly and the rebar was showing, first I think they had said that they couldn't repair it, and then Robert figured out a way that they did patch it, so maybe they could patch the bandstand and the ramp at least temporarily.
Yeah.
But we do have at least one person, and I think it's gonna be a 2 or 3 person project that would do the service lending project and pressure wash, because I've wanted to paint that concession stand forever because all the old tapes on there and everything. But if they would pressure wash it and at least do some painting, it would look a lot nicer. So,
And I'm not gonna spend $150,000 and then saying, well, we can't do it. That was just, you ain't getting it back. So before we spend any money, we need to make sure that this is what we're gonna do, and we need to have a plan.
Exactly.
Because I don't know about you, but if I spent $100,000 and was like, crap, that's gonna hurt bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nickel and diamond, it's not.
no,
No.
no, well,
and it seems
So-
to me like that last plan said that it was not worth repairing, or that it wasn't structurally sound, like it had exceeded its lifetime.
He says that he had a different view on that, I believe. Mhm.
Okay. So it'd be interesting to compare
Mhm.
somewhere. I'll find it in my 39,000.
everything we can find and put together, if we go through with this RFQ and we actually end up, bringing in an architect, all those old plans or whatever you want to call them, pre-us that was done, obviously it's not going to be the same price, but plans can still be, right?
Look at, yeah.
They can,
And then the
surfaces can change a little bit, materials can change a little bit, but the overall design or plan can, that could save us some money from these architects having to reinvent the wheel, right? They're starting over. Well, we already have some of these. This is what we're thinking, right? That would save us for sure. But it's hard to, how do you do that, right? How do we justify $100,000 for the community to say, no,
We're not gonna support that, yeah.
we're not gonna support that?
When are we gonna say we can't use it no more? When somebody falls through the concrete?
When somebody says you can't use it no more.
Yeah.
So we need to
Some
get
of
the
that's
community to buy in quick. I mean, that's what we're looking at. You have people to buy in so we don't get there. So at least we have a plan. And we know, yeah.
My question is, so then would you host like since you're seeking the money from the community, whether you're running a bond or what you're planning on doing to seek that, so do you have like an open forum? Like, do you have a separate meeting outside of these work sessions that we actually bring together all the constituents that you would need?
Mhm.
He said they do that too. They facilitate
Yeah,
that.
they do. Talk about having several nights that we barbecue out there, we invite the public, walk that track, I dare you to walk across that hill without turning your ankle. I mean, that's what we need to do, like have a board member and admin there and just show people, they need to see it, so.
I think there's enough buy-in right now that justifies those costs, but you know what I'm saying? It's been brought to the board's attention too much in the last year to not pursue this.
I just still think, though, Steve, that you're going to have to reach out to, as you're talking about, I guess that's my biggest concern, is because I think the people that's bringing it to our attention, they already know about these. We already know what exists. And so we are going to continue with that. But I don't think you're a betterment of the community who will have to pay those fees along with their property. Those are the ones that you're going to have to really, right?
Exactly.
Bring in and really educate on that. So just saying, in order to pass something
I think that's the cornerstone of this. If we can't get that, it doesn't matter.
No, I don't, I would have to.
Yeah, it won't matter.
It won't.
Because we've already bought in,
Mhm.
people that are purchasing those signs and coming to bring it to your attention
Right.
again.
Like I said,
We're there with you.
the whole conversation we're having tonight, it's like we're preaching, we all know.
But I don't see anybody else here in the
Exactly.
community that would, that has a home that they're willing to, you know what I'm saying? Like all your homeowners, those are the ones you need to reach. That's who's gonna be paying for it,
Mhm.
so.
Oh,
that makes sense.
if we went off of, just quick envelope math, if it was 7 million and we asked the community to put up 20%, that's 1.4 million that we would have to raise. And so that's really what we would have to do. I mean, we would have to basically market this as coming up with that 1.4 million and then being able to go to other investors. And so.
Mhm. I think that's the only way I see it. So,
Just tell the
Big-
work
big
session
number.
outside the porta potties. Robin, when you said that they had looked at this already 6 years ago, what was the big reason that they didn't move forward with it?
So we had the cohort grants and,
Was that a total rebuild or was it just a fix?
I know it was a rebuild, I'm sure.
But see, one of the questions I get all the time, because during track, especially at the middle school, all the parents are like, why are we not having a track? Why are we not having a track? And we're honest and say, you see our facility, come up and walk it with us, we'll show you what's going on. And then it's, where did the money go? Why is there no money to fix it? So how do we answer that question?
well, we don't have carte blanche like they did back in the day, right? We're not mining the same amount of tons. We don't have 4 units running. Our taxable evaluation has gone down. Oh my God, how millions. It's ridiculous, right? We are not getting the money that we used to. 40 years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. Okay? That's why, we have to talk to our stakeholders, the community so much, because they have to know that those days are are coming to an end quickly, you know?
And just,
I mean, you have-
that's a question I get asked all the time when they bring that up.
We just don't get we don't get the funds we used to.
They go for specific
Yeah.
projects.
I mean, you have 400 kids in the high,
This
like,
number now.
you have 400 kids in the high school. So you count how many families that is, how many homes that is, how many taxpayers that is, and now we've got 140 something. And how many kids did you have in the middle school 20 years ago? You know, like, you just don't have the numbers, you don't have the tax base that you once had. So, I mean, that's where the money went. It went out of town. It went to Baker, it went to Laurel, it went to, you know.
Baker's in the same boat we are.
But I mean, it went to these towns that are now, you know, boom towns that are building and
They were
doing
just
stuff.
capitalized on the
You know,
oil.
Right.
If they put a nuke in here, we'll be a boom town again.
So, okay, we have a couple other things we need to get to quickly tonight, but thank you for that. We'll get this ball rolling on RFQ. Like I said, any ideas, anything that you guys can come up with, we'll glad to hear it. And like I said, we'll let you know as soon as we'll get this stuff posted right away. We'll see how it shakes out, really. So, with that, 5102's bus routes. We have a driver shortage. That's just it. I mean, Lodgecrafts, I'll just say Monday. I don't know how many parents took middle school kids to Lodgecrafts, but quite a few of us, which is fine. I mean, we're all going anyway. But I think it needs to be out there that we could be in a position where we'll have to alternate routes, possibly go to two.
Yeah, it's, you know, right now we're managing to keep the in-town route pieced together with substitutes.
Right.
And
It's like Jenga. If one thing changes, then suddenly we don't have enough route drivers and we can't go to volleyball and we can't, it's.
it is, yeah, I mean, it's literally day to day, you know, and telling coaches, gotta drive white buses, you're gonna have to take Suburbans. Like, we're critical. I mean, it's not that we don't have drivers to spare, we don't have drivers.
Right.
Flat out, and just, that simple. And it's something that, I think we need to do a better job of somehow reaching into the community and getting people who have CDLs interested, because honestly, I don't necessarily think that we're going to get full-time drivers at this point. But I think if we could get, a bevy of part-time drivers, of substitute drivers that are willing to pick up a shift when they're not, working at the mine or working at the plant, that are willing to pick up, hey, I can drive the in-town route Tuesday and Monday because I'm off, or I can drive my grandkids to football or lodge grass, like, I think we pay a decent wage for that. We're not nobody's gonna make a living being a bus driver. Because our routes just aren't that way. I mean, we're not giving somebody 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week driving bus. But if we can get people to, to fill in these routes and be able to provide that, I think that's something reasonable that we can ask of the community, because, by talking to a large number of people in the community, we have a lot of people out there that have CDLs. It's getting them to step up and help, and I don't know how we do that.
Yeah, I just worry about it could come to a point where there won't be for some reason, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, the volleyball team, it's gonna rely on parents to get them to wherever.
Yeah, and that's, that's all well and good here in September where the weather is beautiful, but when we got 3 inches of snow on the ground, and we're asking parents to go out and do that, that's not kind of a scary prospect.
Well, they would have to only take their child.
Yeah.
Our teams are small enough that we have been able to ask them to use white buses and, Suburbans and stuff. But we hit a doubleheader basketball game, we don't even have enough white buses and Suburbans to.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I just.
School track who has too many for a bus. So.
This is another thing that the reason I wanted this brought up was because, again, you coaches are gonna have to communicate that with your parents, right?
We do.
I know, just keep reiterating it, reiterating, because like I said, I don't know why, but I feel it's coming, and we're gonna get, and I don't want Tom and Alicia and Robin, or even Mr. Bailey, for whatever reason, getting phone calls from parents saying, why aren't we taking our kids? Well, because we don't have drivers.
Yeah.
And we have too many things going too many different directions, so who do we?
I mean, I can't, like, right now, I can't have a driver be sick. We literally, we have one driver sick.
We had a driver that tried to take a day off this week, and that's not.
You're burning them out.
Yeah, we're having to beg them, can you please reschedule that? And, I mean, just trying to get, kids to come over to here to use the pool to go swimming. That's a Herculean task. I mean, that should be, easy. I just need you to drive back and forth all day. You're gonna get $25 an hour to drive back and forth between the middle school and the high school, for 8 times today. Like, that's, on the scale of being a driver, that's easy money. But again, we just don't have anybody to do it. And, and so our kids are not getting the benefit of the things that we have.
Right.
My husband took an afternoon off last week to drive routes, which he used to do for me too, and he likes Tom, he's quit doing it for me, but, it doesn't quite pencil,
Right.
Right. The lead time, it doesn't work, but I will tell you, like, when it comes to tournament time for basketball or even for volleyball, if we have to hire Sarby Transportation, I mean, it will cost us probably $5,000 for Missoula, or for a Billings to Bozeman trip. Missoula, when we had to charter them before, one bus was 7,000, one bus was 9,000.
Yep.
I mean, we don't have the money anymore.
No, we
can't
don't.
pay
Parents
that.
would have to just drive them.
Yeah, there's no way we could
I mean,
pay.
we have to, with the way that we are right now, we've got to look at, we have to meet the educational needs of the students in this district, and that means to and from school. Everything else out of that right now, until we figure something out, we're struggling just to get kids to and from school. So athletics to me isn't even in the realm of possibilities until we can figure out what we do to get kids to and from school.
And that's the juggling act, and it's a day by day, hope that our 3 subs have enough time off, so that we have going maintenance.
And I mean, realistically, the first route that's gonna be cut is the in-town route.
Right.
Right.
Because those are the kids, first of all, that we really don't get reimbursed for. If I'm wrong, Brittany, let me know. But
You get reimbursed if
We
you
get
get on
reimbursed.
your
You're
bus.
required
Okay.
by law
But,
to bus anybody that lives in district that lives more than 3 miles away from their school. So
okay,
you can't cut in town if they live 3 miles away. So that is the law. It's 3 miles in district. So if you're gonna cut the people that live less than 3 miles, then I think you need to also cut the out of district. Because you can't, I think if you're gonna cut, you have to cut everything that is not mandatory. Because it's not fair if we just do little parts and pieces
because I mean,
here.
I have 3 buses that are full every day.
Right.
Right.
And I mean full.
Yeah.
Like not, there's, so, who do we, I mean, it's a juggling act as it is right now, getting the kids to CPRD.
And that CPRD is a big issue for us too, I think, because you have people who live within 3 miles of their school that take their kids to CPRD in the morning, and then we're required to go pick them up. And that adds a lot more stress to us there too. So that might have to be something we cut. And I know we want drivers, but right now we don't have them. So I think we're gonna have to start cutting routes.
Yep.
And I think we're gonna have to just do 2 routes of the mandatory driving, and that's it for now and then, once people see like, why isn't my kid getting picked up anymore? It's, well, we have 2 drivers. We can't
We
pick you up.
physically can't.
And then maybe that will get people moving.
Forsyth and Miles City don't bus in town. I mean, they pick up out of town, but, originally CPRD transported the students. They pick them up to school and take them down when they were baseball fields or, and
It's an option.
And I know they don't
We
have
asked them to
drivers now either, like they used to be willing to help. I mean, I don't know how many nights I drove a little white bus and they would bring up a couple of vans and I mean, we patched it
I don't think
together.
they will,
Brittany
will
helped
they?
drive a bus
We
more
asked,
than
they
once.
won't
They will not help anymore.
this year.
But if they're making money on the program, it might not be a choice. if we can't provide busing.
Right.
there,
Well, like I said, I agree completely with Serena and Tiffany on this. I think right now, with the struggles we're having, with what you guys are just going through on a day-to-day basis, we cut to what we have to do.
Because you don't want to totally burn out who you have either.
Right, so if they need a day off,
and that's-
Them,
yeah, I
they're
mean,
not gonna last.
if they have an appointment for something, I think we all know how hard it is to get an appointment, and you're pushing it back. You could be pushing something back months, right?
And I know
So-
that you've mentioned people that are in town that have CDLs. I've reached out to people that are in town that have CDLs, and they're like, to be quite honest, I don't want to deal with the kids, and more importantly, I don't want to deal with their parents. So that's why I'm not driving a bus.
And I'll tell you, the CPRD bus is the worst, that in-town bus.
So
So maybe
for a
that's
lot
what
of
I
people
look at.
that do have CDLs, they just don't want the extra headache of it.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean,
And it's
you
just
know,
the way it is.
like, yeah, I mean, I'm actually having to ride the in-town route. I know, Bart's getting on there reading the riot act, and, and it's something that, yeah, those kids need to be monitored and told, and, yeah. And it is, it's rough. But,
So I,
we have, I mean, like, we have what, 6, 8 buses sitting up in that garage? And I have 2 regular route drivers. So we have the vehicles. And, if we can put fewer kids on each bus, that's less headache. So, you don't necessarily have to deal with 84 screaming kids if you kind of spread the love out a little bit. And it's a little easier to ride herd on, on 40 kids than 80 kids.
do you have the statistics for if we cut the 3 mile, within the 3 miles, like?
I
how
would have
many-
to look at it because,
Well, and
it's,
maybe you use that as a marketing tool. You start to say, we are going to have to cut routes.
Yeah.
These are the routes that will be cut first if we don't get additional drivers.
I don't think it's a going to, I think we have to. We're gonna have to.
And it's not cutting a route, it's just redoing
Cutting
new
stops
routes.
It's
Right.
just, it's
2 new routes,
Which
and
is-
you
which
can't
is-
take your kids to CPRD
They can't
if
get
they're
on
not
there.
on a bus normally,
And
because we can't.
Have a public concern meeting just about transportation.
Yeah.
Start putting that out there.
Yeah, because I think maybe when people really start to see
I don't-
that it's
I don't
going
even know if
away.
we have time for that right now.
I think run back.
Because by the
upstairs,
time you have to have a meeting for public, and then you have to come back and have another board meeting, and then you have to go to the county with it, now you're over a month or so out, you can't do that. We can't do that to the drivers that we have. That's not feasible, in my opinion. It's not feasible to post a notice for in a week to have another meeting for the public, for then in another week, we come back to the board, and then we have to go to the county. I mean, you're talking the 1st of November. That's just not feasible. We have the problem now. And it's unfortunate, I guess this is one of those things where we continue to put the board meetings out there, and we tell people about them, and we tell people to get involved in the schools. And this is one of those times where you should be involved in our schools and know what's going on. Because this is coming down the pipe, and it has been.
We could get something written up and get it to the radio station too, and make it read on the community calendar.
Yeah.
Ashley's working on job fair stuff right now, but I just got permission today from Lockwood to kind of copy their poster that we want you and red, white, and blue thing. It won't be exact, but similar, so we'll get some new banners.
Okay, I mean, it'll help, but, I think you need to get that ready to go.
Yeah.
If we gotta put it on the radio and post it in the paper, put it on Facebook, put it wherever else we can, I don't see any other choice right now. I mean, I don't.
And we have to take that, if we go down to 2 routes, we have to take that to the county to get approved, right?
Yeah.
And then if we have that, we can go back and forth between the 3 and the 2.
which, it's not a matter of the county approving it, it's a matter of the county, of just telling the county this is what we're gonna be doing.
Right.
Like, that's,
Just so that they know.
Yeah.
that- Yeah.
Is there a law about not busing out of district kids, or is that, because I know you're talking about like within 3 miles in district kids, but are you
Yes.
talking, when you say cut a route, are you talking about cutting an out-of-town route?
I'm talking
Out of
cutting
district.
anything that we are not required by law to do at this point. So you would bus anybody who lives more than 3 miles away from their school in district. So you would have to cut out of district, and you would have to cut anybody that lives within 3 miles of their school.
So basically it would be like the bank area for Plainview and the high school. And then. like,
That end of town would go to this end of town, that end of town would go to that end of town.
And that might just be a matter of cutting stops.
That's how we've done it in the past too.
So, and is it, okay, I put a point on the map and I draw a circle around it, it's 3 miles, or is it 3 driving miles?
It says 3 miles over the shortest practical route from the nearest operating public elementary or public high school. So, shortest practical route.
So what would that do to like our A&B money and our relationship with the tribes? I mean, if you're essentially closing the borders.
We're not closing the borders, we don't have drivers. We don't have drivers. And we legally have to pick up people who live 3 miles from their school in district. Like, that's the law. We have to do that. Or we have to pay them to drive their own kid to school. If we only have 2 bus drivers and those are full of the students we are legally required to pick up, then I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know what else. We're not trying to close the borders. We're not trying to make people walk 3 miles to school, but we have no options. We have no
I
drivers.
think you need to get that messaging out there that says that, because once people hear the message, maybe that will, we're not closing borders, but these are what we have. It's a human resource. That's what we have, I mean, bodies. So I think you have to really word it specific that that's why we're doing it, or that's
And
why
I
it's
think
gonna
that's where we
happen.
need some help, is like,
Yeah,
for Tom and I to word this and put it out
yeah,
on transportation, like that shouldn't be coming from us necessarily, it should be coming from a superintendent.
right.
And then also to revamp, I mean, it took us weeks to revamp the first time, and now school has started, and to revamp a second time and figure out where everybody lives and who can ride and who can't, and it's gonna be a lot of work on top of our regular job.
Not only that, the relationship that you have with your out of districts, like your tribes and your families that come, they can't afford to drive their kids. I just know from working and living in that community, you're gonna lose students. Because they're not gonna be able to afford to drive their kids back and forth.
Right.
So you are gonna be the school is gonna be putting themselves in a situation with this tribe by not providing those out of district routes, so.
We gotta find.
I mean, I understand you guys are in a crunch, it's not a crunch I would wanna be in, but I also understand like.
Oh, I understand it too. I get it, but
Well, and we teachers are gonna get the questions too. And then what do we say?
just
Sorry.
that.
We have 2 drivers.
We have 2 drivers.
2
Because
drivers.
I've had numerous calls
Yeah.
this week about the game, and that's all I said. We do not have a driver. And they're like, what? I go, no, there's no one to drive the bus. We would provide the transportation, and then they're like, oh, you mean you have no drivers? I'm like, no, we have no drivers.
Yeah,
So I think you just have to be very
I
clear.
don't have any buses, I have all kinds of.
We got all the
Yeah.
buses, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I got a whole barn full of buses.
So I think it needs to be a hard spot, like, if we really can't go on, you don't wanna burn out who you have, we don't wanna obviously not pick anybody up, but what do you do? And I think that's I mean, I don't know who's the decision maker in that, but if you burn out one of the ones you have, then you're down to 1.
Yeah.
I mean, people have to have time off, we have to respect our bus drivers, I have that conversation with the parents who called about transporting kids. It's all about respect and treating each other kind, and we're all doing the best we can, but maybe if we get some of that messaging out, that it is going to go away. And I don't know who you'll get to come in and help drive, but I think we have to be very straightforward in our messaging that this is what's happening, because if we don't, they just assume we're gonna find somebody at this point.
And again, that's why I come back to saying, for a lot of these people in the community and these people that have CDLs, I don't need you to drive every single day.
And maybe we
I
can
need
get
to
that
drive once a week.
messaging out, like, could
If
you
I can get
drive
5
on-
of you that wanna drive once
Yeah.
a week, I'm good.
Right,
I can put together we can put together a whole transportation system. If we get 5 people that are willing to drive 1 day a week. Like,
Yeah.
so it's not something where, yeah, you're gonna have 80 screaming kids on your bus every single day. You're not gonna be Otto from The Simpsons. You're gonna be,
right.
you're gonna be able to walk away from it and get some rest, but we need you to help.
Right.
Can I
Like,
say too,
That's,
That they have to have a passenger endorsement,
Yes.
it's not just a CDL.
Yes,
They have to have their passenger endorsement, which
And
is the
we
reason
will
why
help
a
them
lot
with
of
that.
these guys aren't just stepping up and being like, oh, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have that passenger endorsement and you haven't taken the practical exam, so they have to
which
get on the
is,
bus and they have to drive to Glendive with one of our bus drivers, or Robert's done it
is it
before.
Glendive or is it Miles City?
They kind of rotate, I think, so
Okay.
they've done a lot of different cities, I think, in that area, so,
And are we still facilitating that and paying for it?
driving them to go get their test, we've always driven them to go drive and take
But I
their
mean, as
test.
far as like paying for them to test. and
If they do not have a CDL and they're looking to get that, yes, the district will still pick up that.
What about if they're willing, if they have a CDL and all they need is the passenger endorsement
We'll,
and the yellow
we'll
bus?
pick up those.
Okay, because that's a big deal right there, is being able to say,
I don't see why we wouldn't do that. If we do the whole thing, why we
Yeah.
wouldn't just pick up that.
You'd have to do an action item like in another meeting and take action on that, but yeah, if the intent is there.
Yeah.
but we are willing to take that step to do that.
Because
Okay,
we
just-
have the MOUs for people that are already employed, but we need to.
Hey, it's not something we want to do by any means. But like I said, that's why I wanted this on here tonight, because I'm telling you, it's coming.
Yeah,
And maybe that's messaging that needs to come from the superintendent district-wide, so everybody hears the message, because I know we have it on our agenda, people see it, but if they hear a message that says this is going to end, that might, people will listen, I think, more so than we have it on the board agenda, they're probably
Well,
like,
it's not a potential bus route changes. Well, we just change the bus routes, everybody's still getting picked up.
right.
Change them again, everybody's still getting
Right.
picked up.
So I think that needs to be a strong message coming from you and the superintendent probably, that goes district-wide, so that people know, like, we gotta get that out there, that it's serious, we're to a critical point, and people really need to hear it.
And we need to get it out there that we've increased the wages for subs, like,
Yeah.
you know, having a sign on the fence by the grocery store is not conducive so far in getting people to move up.
I suggested sitting at Rosebud inside at the table,
yeah,
you
that's,
know?
Like on my
Yeah.
lunch break or.
I didn't just mean you.
Well, I know
But I
people
mean,
see
as
that we're already being
advertising.
affected because of the sports. Because even like volleyball could only take varsity to Lodge Grass. So the JV didn't get to go. And parents see that and they know, and now they're seeing, okay, now they're serious. Maybe they can't really take my kid.
Right.
But we have 3 routes right now and the kids are sitting 3 to a seat. So
Yeah.
we're already at over max capacity. I mean, we're already too full. We can't continue. There's no way.
It's gonna
Unless
be
we
pick
get
and
more
choose
drivers.
throughout the rest of the year
Yeah.
on who gets to go where.
So can we get some sort of a messaging out on that, do you think? I mean, I think that's what we need to do. It needs to come from the superintendent probably, you and him together. And I think it needs to be very strong
Mhm.
and to the point, like, this is going to happen. Like,
We
there's no
need help,
ifs, ands,
or
or
this
buts.
is going to
Yeah.
happen.
And maybe that'll stir something up. We don't want to leave anybody off the bus. Obviously, that's not what we're about. But I think if we don't get that messaging out in that tone, then people are just like, yeah, they're gonna make it work. It's always worked, you know? And that's until it doesn't.
Right.
What's our policy for the drivers that I heard Tiffany say that CDL holders are saying we don't want to deal with the kids or their parents? To me, that makes me think if I'm a bus driver, I'm gonna have that same fear of what do I do when a kid is being disruptive? And what do I do when a parent's being disruptive? So, I mean, what does our training look like with drivers? I'm concerned that we have this desperation for drivers. We're gonna get the first person that has a CDL, and the next day, like if someone walked in the door tonight, I can drive, we're gonna put them on a bus tomorrow, and then they're gonna leave next week because there's discipline problems. So what do we do to train our drivers? And can a driver say, hey kid, this is your 3rd strike, you're not on my bus anymore? Like
I mean, we have that in place. It's, it's, so, and again, having ridden the buses, most of the behavior doesn't rise to the level of you should be thrown off the bus. It's the fact that you've got 84 kids, of which probably, about anywhere from 40 to 60 are elementary age, that are loading on there at the end of a school day, and they're kids. I mean, they're just kids, and they're being kids. And they don't understand that, that collectively they are extremely loud. And, you know, and so basically you have to be able to tell them, sit down and shut up. You know, and that's, I mean, and that's literally, so it's a matter of having the drivers understand that they have the technique. I mean, I was talking with a couple of the drivers and I said, hey, I remember riding in 6th grade and our bus driver was like, I'll stop this bus. And man, we didn't want him to, like, he was gonna stop the bus. And we were just like, oh my God, that's the worst thing in the world. And we were terrified that he was gonna stop the bus.
So do you offer some training?
So, you know, yeah, I mean, there has to be, you know, there should be, yeah, we do talk to them, you know, about behavior management and things like that. They, you know, 2 of the 3 buses have a bus monitor. You know, but it is a matter of also, you know, you gotta understand kids are kids. And, you know, focus on the behaviors that are bad and are dangerous. And, you know, it wouldn't hurt to get an extra monitor, and maybe we can throw that out to, you know, district-wide and say, hey, can we offer a teacher an extra half hour, an extra hour a day to ride the in-town route along with a monitor, you know, and chill these kids out. Because I mean, the day I rode the bus, yeah, they got on there and they were a little silly. You know, Bart got on and he read them the riot act. Katie had the front of the bus, I had the back of the bus, and the kids were fine. You know, so it is a matter of just training the kids to behave on the bus. And, you know, and I don't necessarily think that the drivers are the problem. I think, you know, it's just a matter of getting the kids to understand the safety reasons behind why it's important that they sit down and be quiet.
In the CBA, there is supposed to be MANT or CPI or some sort of de-escalation training that's done yearly and hasn't been done since 2021. So I know that John Arneson was working on that. It would just be a matter of actually getting the bus drivers to attend.
Well, we can get that put in place and we can ask that these bus drivers attend and get that taken care of. So again,
I think it's,
nobody wants to do this.
yeah,
Nobody wants to do this. I don't want to see this. I don't. But that's the only reason why I wanted this on here, is to get this conversation started a little bit, because it's close if it isn't already here.
and it's hard too, because you, sitting up here, you know, we started with 3 drivers, so everything was fine, and now we're down to 2. And so we have to make the hard decisions. And if you don't do the out of district, then you're gonna make them mad. If you don't do in town, you're gonna make them mad. You're gonna make people in town mad. So for me, in my mind, I just go back to what is required by law. What do we have to do by law to get by for now until we can try to figure this situation out? And by law, we don't have to pick up within 3 miles, and we don't have to bus out of district. So by law,
I don't have a way of knowing which kids are out of district. I mean, I can look at an address and say, oh, that's Lame Deer. But I don't know where the cutoff is. I don't know if Sabrina's kids are in or out of district. I don't know.
There are district lines.
Or are you gonna go by their address?
Yeah, there's a district line. I mean, it's the same people who have to apply for out of district. We know who those kids are.
I don't have the out of district.
We have that. The district has that information.
Yes.
So if you need it, someone could get that for you.
And I just think we're gonna need some help with doing all of this.
Probably.
I need clarification too, because what if the out-of-district students go to pay to go to CPRD or a friend's house, or, you know, that's their everyday pickup?
So it's the same with the CPRD, like the breakfast club and the after-school program. A lot of those kids might live up here by the elementary school. That's their residence, but they're being picked up or dropped off somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we are not required to do that because that is not their residence.
And I think that needs to be part of the message, that wherever your physical address is where you are going to be bused or not bused. Doesn't matter if you go to grandma's every day after school, or if you ride to mom's work in Lame Deer, or if you, that your physical address is the deciding factor.
And I wanted to clarify, we're not picking up kids within 3 miles, right? That's not, I know that's,
We are.
we are,
Within 3.
that don't, I mean, that aren't CPRD kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh. Well, why aren't mine? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Drop 'em off.
Okay. I didn't know that either, okay.
So that's why I look at it like, if we are in dire need right now, then I would just go cut and dry, legally required, until we get people to step up and hopefully drive. But I think that might create some sense of urgency for people to help.
Well, I find it interesting too, because you alluded to the fact and even said, I believe, is that our academic, and I know that you mentioned this too, Tiffany, that our academic is also falling behind in this bus issue as well. So not only getting our kids to and from school, but we can't do a field trip, you know, which is academics first, you know, because a driver is pulled to go take a, you know, football team someplace. I can't bus my kids different places, teachers can't. So, you know, there's that whole aspect too, because realistically, our buses should be used for academics first, and the purposes of that secondary then should be athletics. But that's not the case. Our bus drivers are being used for athletics and not academics. Not because of anything that we mean to or not do, but that's just the nature of the beast right now. So I totally understand, we're short bus drivers and we need to do what we need to do.
It's
Totally about following the law.
right. It's not a pretty picture. It isn't.
And the
And
thing
I
is
don't-
like field trips and things like that, I mean, those drivers are not contracted for that, so if they say no, there's really nothing we can do.
Right?
Right.
Short of mom and dad hauling their own. You know,
I
can you
feel like
imagine
for
trying to,
sports,
can you
though,
imagine trying to
parents
pick?
will step up.
I hope so.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Because we went to Baker this weekend and I had, my entire boys team, our boys team, they're all their parents drove them.
Mhm.
We didn't have any issues with that. We only take one school suburban to the girls. And, you know, they would, I'm sure for the rest of the season would be willing to drive their kids. So if it's an education thing, I can understand that completely. But as a parent who lives out of district for, like, I live 50 miles away. It takes us a while to get, my kids get up at 5 a.m. and get on the bus at 6, okay, every day. And we do that because we value the education system here. And a lot of out-of-district parents do value that education system too. But they also have to make a financial decision for their families because they have lots of kids or other things that are going on. If you cut the district route for them, out-of-district kids, mid-school year, you're like, they have what options? St. Bray, Lame Deer, Busby, you know, those are things that are, as an out-of-district parent myself, those are hard decisions. I can't drive my kids to and from school every single day, you know, and I work in Lame Deer.
Right.
So I understand you guys are in a hard spot, but I feel like cutting the out-of-district routes is gonna cause more fire than anything.
We don't really have a choice.
Sherelle, is there good choices on like for the district, or for the tribe down there, if there were one centrally located place to where, you know, everyone comes to
I
this
think
one
everyone-
place and then our buses aren't, you know, spending the time going
I mean, we
all
really,
over.
honestly, we really cut it down to that. We pick up at Money Cluster, we pick up at the Powwow Grounds, we pick up at BIA. Right, that's.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and they're a fair distance apart, you know, but those, I mean, that's.
Even I drive down every morning to St. Bray for my kids to get on, and that's 6-7 miles one way in the morning at 6 in the morning. But I think you could also reach out to the tribe and see if they'd be willing to send some drivers or send some communication before you just cut a route, you know?
We did that in the past too, where we had them, remember doing that? We added the one.
That was when the borders were closed, wasn't it? though?
Yeah.
When the borders were closed, we could go to like Sabrina's.
Yeah, they
house,
stopped us at the border there and
And they had a bus that was
they had the bus. they
totally
could ride it
unsafe and
wherever.
horrible, but it met us there.
I mean, Yeah, and I guess it's not about how many stops we have down there, it's about how many kids we're picking up.
Yeah, by the time it gets, I'm the last out of town stop from the Busby bus. By the time it gets to my house, they're 3 to a seat already. So, I mean, there's a lot of kids. Huh?
They don't pick anybody up after you.
Right, I'm the last stop, yeah.
And I know on our route, like they pick up out of town to Ashland and go back in and pick up the kids on Cowherd, and then they pick up in-town kids. So by the time, my kids are on the bus for 2 hours.
Mhm.
And I don't complain about it,
Right,
because we value the education system here. But you're gonna put families in a pickle if you do this mid-school year kind of deal, and they're gonna have to figure it out. 'Cause I don't think parents are gonna be able to afford to do it daily.
I know, but we don't have a driver. I mean,
Like,
If it
I
was
think
a
that's
matter
the
of-
point, I think that's the point we're
Yeah.
getting at, is we don't have a choice. Like, we can't, and again, I've already had to tell drivers, or beg drivers, I'm not telling them, because, you know, if you need time off, you're gonna take time off. But, you know, begging them, hey, can you do this a different day? You know, because if you do this today, these 3 things can't happen. You know, and, you know, like, we're asking drivers to do that. We're asking them to put off medical appointments. We're asking them to put off personal business. You know, we're asking them to put off stuff, and they're gonna come to a point where they're like, okay, well, if I can't, you know, give you advance notice to take time off, I'm gonna call in sick the night before. Because I need the time off. And I can't afford this. So I think we're at that point where, yeah, people really need to realize how desperate we are. And I don't think it's a matter of like, not, you know, we don't want to do this to kids. I mean, I don't want to tell Alicia, hey, I can't take your kids to the pool, or hey, your kids can't go to the lake, or, you know, I don't want to have to tell a coach, hey, you know, I know you're going to be coaching your kids for 8 hours at an event, but then I also need you to drive 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get home. Like, I don't want to say that to you.
Or by the way,
I don't have,
if you got 60 kids out for track, you can take 15.
And we've told that to our middle school parents. We have said, if we do not have bus drivers, we will pick and choose or who needs to go and who doesn't, or we're not taking 6th graders. We've told the parents this, we tell them every year, and every year nobody steps up.
I think it needs to come from the top as this is going to happen. The coaches saying this might happen, you know, it just, because nobody believes it.
We can get it
They know
come down
it's
from Scott. It's coming down from the board right now.
I was gonna say, this is the top.
It's just-
Yeah, and
This
that's
is
what I
the
mean,
top,
like, it needs
so-
to come from you guys, because we're making it work right now. you
Right.
know, And the coaches are making it work, and so really, there's not any need for parents to step up, other than to just take their kids to an event or something, because so far, it really hasn't, you know, everything's worked.
Right.
And we're almost to the point that if one person gets sick or needs to be gone, the whole house of cards is gonna fall.
our luck is gonna run out.
Well, once again, I'm not worried about those activities, because if you want your kid to participate, you're gonna get them there. But I'm worried about getting them to and from school for their education.
And we have some drivers that work day jobs, but they will drive kids to activities. So we have a couple people that will just do that, but they're not available during the day. And that's where our big need is routes and swimming and field trips and educational. Because we do have
Your
people.
daily routes are your main concern.
Yes.
I mean, everything else can wait, like, your daily routes have to be your main concern.
And yeah, like I said, like, we're making it work, but at some point, there's gonna be a day or days that it's not going to. And it's not just gonna be sports that have to drive themselves, it's gonna be on Tuesday, we don't have the TAS bus.
And it is one of those things where, one of the ways we're making it work is those drivers that, you know, have regular day jobs, and as they're in between their shifts, they're able to pick up, okay, I can drive the in-town route on Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay, I can drive in the morning on Thursday, but I can't drive in the afternoon. Oh, I can drive in the afternoon. And so that's what I'm saying is, like, we don't necessarily need somebody that's gonna commit to driving every single day. We need people that will step in and say, okay, I can drive these days. I can drive this, you know, yeah, I'll get a little money to go throw away at the casino or whatever, you know. We need, that's what we need. So like, it's not something that we're asking somebody to commit to 5 days a week, you know, 2 shifts a day.
Yeah. And
We're asking people to, you know, step up and help out a day or 2 a week.
I think you need to put the advertising out that gives you a time limit.
I'm gonna, we're running short on time too, and I think we all know how important this issue is. I'll work with Scott and everybody to, Tom and you administrators to get kind of a message and a timeline as best we can for this, just to stress how important, how urgent this is. Because like I said, if we don't get some, it's coming. And like the board has said, we will fall back on what we have to do by law.
I agree with Terry, it's gotta come from the top though. And I think if we can get that out, I just asked Terry if we can get it out on Dojo. I mean, get it from you guys, get it from Scott, get it to the buildings, get it out on Dojo. And I'll even print it off and send it home with my kids if I need to.
We'll do that. So, all right, with that, let's move on. Evan? You're short on time, buddy.
Sabrina, at the 5-minute mark, you storm out, okay? Then we'll know it's done. Mine are easy. I just threw together some items I've been working on in the past month. You have it in your board report. Big things, I'm very happy to have a new team member. Ms. Berlanik's done an awesome job. I'm very happy to have someone else starting this week. I think that's going to make things move a lot smoother. I've been working with staff on where to save files, putting them in Google Drive. There's been a lot of great questions of staff saying, that file existed last year, where did it go? And I'm like, hey, let's make a plan. So I'm working with a lot of staff on how do we strategically save our files so that when staff are changing positions or getting into new work groups, the stuff is there and we're not always hunting for it, because that's been a big problem recently. We can't find stuff and we know it's there somewhere, but it's just hidden. So I've been doing a lot of work on being a detective on tracking down files. The next thing is just updating our email distribution groups. That's a little bumpy right now, but I'm rebuilding those so that we have these organized work groups, that we add somebody to one structural group, and that gives them access to all these great things out there, communication lists and file share areas. Big exciting news last Thursday. The Yellowstone e-waste came and took out 3 huge boxes. They were like mini, like hot tub size boxes. You know, I mean, I could stand in there, the box would be up to my chest. It was wonderful. The guy did a great job of getting those all out. So we had like half the tech room at the middle school now clear. It was beautiful. So thank you for approving that months ago. And then just highlight with our ticket system. We've been using it for the last year, but it's really, staff, I feel, is starting to utilize it more in the last couple of months. Just in the first month of school, we've had 527 tickets come through just for tech. So that's not even the tickets Robert's dealing with, just for the tech stuff. And that's only the tickets that got into the email chain. So there's been a lot of just phone calls and walk-ups that we've been helping, but 527 and almost 3/4 of that have been closed. And that's just excellent. It also shows that the staff is starting to adopt a way to communicate tech needs, which has been really helpful for me, even though it's sometimes inconvenience for them to write an email. I've been really impressed with the staff and just the teams that they're willing to do that. Because I've told them if they tell me, I'm most likely going to get to them, but I might forget. If it gets on that email work order list, I can find it. At least when they tell me a week later, hey, did you get that? I'm like, no, but I'll go check. And then I found it. So that's just great. So we have plenty of work to do. And this is very helpful for me to say, yes, I need 2 people on my team to help work through those in a more timely manner. So
that's great.
That's my highlight. And like Sabrina didn't even have to storm out. So.
Thank you, Evan. With that. Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot about Marietta. Sorry, Marietta.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
Can you take it back?
Take it back.
I
didn't work.
I'm gabbling.
I'm good.
Thank
Way
you
to go.
guys for letting me speak during this part, even though it wasn't on the agenda. You all know me, I'm a social science teacher, I do a lot for the district. What you might not know is I'm a wife and enrolled member of the Little Shell Chippewa tribe. My husband is enrolled. I just want to express my disappointment with how Native American Week was handled. I know this year has been a mess, but I'd still like to say some stuff. The first issue, planning for this week. An email was sent out on August 30th asking what's the plan, who's gonna ensure that EFA is being followed, what's going on. We haven't heard anything. I emailed back what the high school was thinking about doing based on past years. I got an email back from middle school, Pine View Elementary. It took until the end of the day to get an email from someone in the district saying, we're gonna talk about it at an admin meeting. And then we didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks until, what was it, Friday the 13th, when we got an email, there's gonna be a meeting on Monday for Native American Committee. That's the week before Native American Week, as designated by OPI. There's not much planning that we can do in a week. I'm also upset with the fact that dancing was mentioned at a board meeting as being canceled and not happening this year without talking to stakeholders, staff members, community members.
Can I address that?
Yes.
So are you talking about the powwow or just the dancing during the day?
The powwow.
So the powwow is canceled in respect to the
We
loss of an
decided
elder.
at the Native American Committee meeting that was what we would say is postponed.
Right, but
But-
that is respectful, and I can tell you that the tribe has responded very, very positively to us doing that. So I think that was, in retrospect, a good move. And we can postpone it. We
Yes.
are not doing ours at the college as well, and out of respect. So that is something that I think we do need to look at. We do have to be respectful to those, especially when an elder is lost. So
I agree.
I think that one I will say, I think was
My
a good
issue
call.
isn't the postponement. My issue is that we decided last Monday we were gonna postpone, and then nothing was said, nothing was said, nothing was said until today. We had people asking us, are we doing the dancing, are we not doing the dancing, what's going on? There was nothing said until today. My final issue, today an issue occurred, flag songs, do them every year. 2 of the 3 buildings participated, 2 of the 3. I find that disrespectful.
Well, I want to speak to that because I got an email that said, and we were all for that, they were supposed to show up at 9:30 this morning. And they didn't show up until my lunchtime today. And so I can't postpone 120 kids from having lunch to entertain the flags on. So I emailed Nikki and I said, we're going to lunch. I had them set up the teepees, which I couldn't find the ropes, I couldn't find my door. So I sent kids out to help with that. So it's not like we didn't participate in the flag song, it's that they showed up at our lunchtime.
Thank you
So,
so much.
yes, and I don't know what happened to my door or the ropes. So whoever's putting the teepees away, they are not doing a very good job of keeping things together. I went up and looked in Sharky's old room where everything was at, and there's nothing left up there either. So, yeah, I mean, I know that happened last year, and I don't know where the stuff is at, but as far as the flag song today, we were ready to go at 9:30 this morning, and we would have done it, but it was right at the bell, and that's when I had to take my kids to lunch. But I did have kids go out and help set up the teepee, because we do it every year. I've been doing it for 35 years in the district. So, and I'm sorry that we missed it today. So, thank you.
And I do want to clarify, we were told they were supposed to be here at 9:30, but they also had to do Reindeer, St. Labray. They were going back to do Busby right after us. So it was packed. It was last minute because we didn't have our meeting until last week. I feel like the district, we need to keep an eye on it. We don't want what happened to Billings to happen to us, right? With lawsuits and issues raised by community members.
Lawsuits for what?
Billings was sued because they were not following EFA. And it was
Can
the
you explain IFA?
Indian Education for All, Indigenous Education for All, which is a state mandate. It is in Article 10, Part 10, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Montana State Constitution. State recognizes the distinct and unique cultural heritage of the American Indians and is committed in its educational goals to the preservation of their cultural integrity. There are 7 essential understandings that all schools in Montana have to follow, have to include in all lessons. It's supposed to be done in all grade levels through all subject areas.
And I think we get a report on that every year where
Yes,
people fill out. So that would be following that, correct?
yes, but to my knowledge, as of today, we do not have someone that is dedicated to looking over EFA. It's just kind of been pushed off. I don't know who's doing it, if the superintendent's in charge of it. I had asked at the Native American Committee meeting and I didn't get a clear answer. We'd like to know, who do we send these invoices to? Who makes sure that presenters get paid? Who makes sure that classes get the materials needed?
Under Sharky's role.
Because
Yeah,
it was
that's-
under Susan.
So we've had discussion on that in the
Yeah.
admin meeting, because right now we're currently,
Right,
hiring, and we'll have the curriculum director, which
Right.
will then take place of all of that were the last curriculum director's responsibilities. But as far as what we've already done, we have spreadsheets that we've already created that the admin is supposed to be putting, came from central office, that we put our speakers on, that is being secured by the people that are on the committee. Like in my building, people are sending me, who they want to come in, like we had hand games today, in PE all day long. It was really awesome to be able to go and watch that. So that goes on the spreadsheet. Then I've also had the people come to the office to fill out their W-2s, to fill out their paperwork that needs to be filled out. That goes to Lauren at central office, and they are getting paid for that. So currently, we're trying to take over that position of the curriculum director's responsibility until he gets here at the end of this month. And then he will probably take that over then, but in the meantime, that is already being taken over. As far as the IEFA spreadsheet, where all the teachers are supposed to be putting things on, we've had that. That's supposed to have been sent out from central office. That we know about that. I think Jen Arneson was working on that the last admin meeting to send that out along with the incentive credits that she's picking up too. So we've kind of divvied up in the admin area, the different responsibilities that's delegated to us right now until that particular person gets here. But that doesn't mean that we stop doing IEFA, so we're trying to say to people, and maybe we haven't done a very good job in our buildings, I can't speak for all buildings, but, to say, I told my staff, continue to do what you need to do. Please tell me what supplies that you need to have, what kind of things do you want to do? We're, currently doing that. I know that Mrs. Peterson's been out, right now too, but we're working on all those little things within the classroom. Nothing stopped, and
I think Indian education, Indian
No, you're
education
fine.
for all goes all year. It doesn't
It
happen
does.
just for 1 week.
Correct.
So I don't
think, I'm just gonna say, I know the people that are involved in this,
Yeah.
and it's always been done very, very well here. We're so respectful of other cultures in this district, and we have been. I think it's, again, a human resource thing. It's a gap where we don't have someone in that position, and I don't think anything was done in the intent to offend. I think it's just that there's another gap, and people are people are new, and I just think I can tell you, I don't think anybody did anything to try to offend anybody, and I think everybody's doing the best that they can. So
It's just
I agree, I've just heard
picking up the-
mumblings.
yes, and we need to hear those rumblings. I think, once again, I think that there's nobody in that position right now, so things get a little hiccup here and there. So, but I think for you, then advocate for those things, advocate for that, call those building reps or whatever and ask them to where those gaps are right now. Or you be that person, maybe step up and take that role on.
I've stepped up in the high school for sure.
Right, so that's good. But I think, and personally, I think it's a human resource thing. We just are short everywhere, and now there's just gonna be little bumps
And
until we iron that
this
out.
district's gonna meet that letter to the T,
Yeah,
okay?
We always
We
go
always
above
do.
that.
We've always gone above it, right?
Yep.
And I
We're gonna meet those, we're gonna do what is required of us,
Required
for
of us
sure.
by the state. But we're gonna do what's required of us by the state.
Right.
Again, that's a human resource issue. Same thing with busing. We're gonna do what is required by the state to meet the educational needs of our kids.
I just wanted you to be aware of the rumblings that I was hearing, because it is concerning to some
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, on that note, meeting adjourned.